Good day, everybody, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk about one of the perhaps most talked about visa categories in recent times. And what makes this particular category very attractive and also at times very debatable, it raises many questions also, is the fact that making an application in this category could be your solution to so many other limitations that you could be facing in filing an application in the category. We are talking, let's say in this context, we are talking in Canada, but practically speaking, these situations you could be facing if you want to make an application to other destinations also. So here is a category in which there are no minimum educational requirements. General IELTS requirement is as low as 5.0. There is no personal net worth requirement minimum. There is no minimum requirement in terms of the amount of investments. And what's more important, in terms of experience also, if one doesn't have an experience going into a good number of years, one could still be eligible. Now you could say that, oh my God, what kind of a category can it be? This is a category called Canadian Startup Visa. It's an amazing category for those who can understand the integrities of the application process and also understand that it's unless one doesn't go deep into each step of the process, it may again not be the right category for a person. How did the interest really started off in the Canadian Startup Program? Even that has a background. So this particular category was launched on trial basis by the Canadian government around 2018 perhaps, or maybe 17, and then it was made permanent. But interest for this category grew in recent times, especially in last 2 years. It grew up within India and all over the globe for that reason. Is that, there used to be a program called Immigrant Investor Program for Quebec, and before that even Canadian federal government had an Immigrant Investor Program. And one by one, both those programs were withdrawn. Now, anybody who wanted to go on an unconditional visa to Canada just by simply investing in Canadian government bonds or taking loan to make that investment from a Canadian bank, they were left with no opportunity. Simultaneously, another thing happened. You have, options available to Canada, especially for entrepreneurs or those who are senior managers under the entrepreneur category. In the entrepreneur category, what you do is different provinces have different eligibility norms, and practically speaking, what you're required to do is you must go and start a business in Canada, the business plan for which you filed and you are approved. All looks easy till now. But the majority of entrepreneur programs also had a couple of requirements. One key requirement was that to conduct an exploratory visit to the province where one wants to start a business. COVID situation meant that those visits were also not possible. There's another situation that developed. So for that reason, one could not really file the application under the entrepreneur category with as much conviction as one could. And even the application that was filed went into the waiting line of the process. So what could one do? You don't have the investor program open, and you don't have the entrepreneur program even though open. You're not able to file an application because you're not able to conduct the exploratory visit. So what's one do? Because keep in mind, the exploratory visit is not simply a visit. During that visit, you meet accountants, you meet lawyers, you meet the business owners, whose business you might like to buy. You overall do survey of the entire area to see what kind of business might have opportunities. So for entrepreneurs, all these areas are important. So even if there were no such restrictions, lack of possibility of making these visits made people think again, what is the option for it? In walked the Canada Startup Visa Program. It was already an existing program, even before COVID. What this program requires is that, first and foremost, so if you have, for example, a technology idea, and the technology, it could be an idea stage also, or it could be a validated technology also, or it could have reached a prototype stage. So if you have a technology idea which meets, I would say 3 key requirements. One is that the idea must have some kind of uniqueness in it. Second, I would say, is that the idea has possibility of scalability. And third, of course, like I said, it should be technology backed. So if these 3 key requirements are met and you have a technology, an application, for example, then you could make an application with a Canadian Startup Visa Program. So far, so good. But what about a situation where you are simply an entrepreneur or you are simply a senior executive, but you do not have a technology idea? What do you do? How do you participate in Canadian Startup Program? So what happens is this. Under the Canadian Startup Visa Program, the IRCC, the agency that runs Citizenship and Immigration Canada, so they permit the founder plus 4 more members to become applicants as far as that particular idea is concerned. So founder plays the role of the founder, and the other members, depending on their background, can contribute to a particular startup. By, for example, somebody could be a specialist in HR, another person could be a specialist in finance, there could be a specialist in marketing, the fourth could be a specialist in sales, the fifth could be a specialist in strategy. I've just given you some of the areas. So typically, depending on a person's background, interestingly, what it means also is that even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a businessman, you can still participate. Typically, if you're 40 plus, 50 plus, mid 40s, the chances of selection under the Canadian Express Entry Program are really, really dim because your CRS ranking really goes down unless you get provincial nomination. So getting the provincial nomination as you grow older is also not that easy. Again, a provincial nomination may just get you 50 points unless you belong to 00 category. So even a nomination that just get you 50 points may not still take you to the high ranking that's required to get the invite to apply. So beauty about this Canadian Startup Program is that outside of entrepreneurs, who've been running businesses for some time, or maybe not a long enough time, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years, doesn't matter. Even senior executives could become member of such a technology group and file the application. So this way, up to a maximum of 5 applications, 5 families, along with their dependent spouse, and children up to 22 years, dependent children up to 22 years, could be part of one single application. This is as far as who can participate is concerned. So now let's go back to where we started from. There's no age restriction. There is no minimum personal net worth requirement. There is no minimum investment requirement. And the general IELTS score requirement is just 5. The most important thing is what role one can play. And that role we can help in defining, going by the person's background, even in business. So once it has been decided that, this is how the group can be formed, the other next step is how do we move forward. In that moving forward thing, the Canadian government has appointed what you call designated organizations. They could be, they are listed on the IRCC website. They could be venture capitalists, angel investors, or they could be incubators. Typically, the most popular route through which one likes to go is incubator, because in that there's no minimum investment requirement that's expected of any of the group members. Though, they are expected to be able to have the capability or capacity to invest at least that fund which is required by the business plan, which is presented by them. So in case of incubator, the process typically will move. Majority of incubators have what they call accelerator programs or boot camps. So you attend those boot camps, and on an average, the charge is around $10,000 that they charge these incubators, majority of them who have these accelerator boot camps. Then after you attend the boot camps or these accelerator programs, a month before that, I think what you should do is you should appear in IELTS test, get that report ready, incorporate a company in Canada, and of course, for that entire group and for the project. And of course, besides these two things, you should get a business plan for the business idea prepared. So all these things are presented to the incubator. They go through the entire process during the accelerator programs. Some do not even go through the accelerator programs, but majority do. And if they find it convincing enough, they issue what is called a letter of support. That letter of support is submitted along with the commitment certificate to the federal agency for processing the application, who after that look at the business plan, its validity. In case they have any question, the government has they have a panel to which they can give it back for a peer review, and post acceptance they ask you to undergo the medical and thesis requirement, and the PR visa, unconditional PR visa is issued. This entire process can take roughly around 2.5 years. Though because of COVID at times the time has been getting extended. The difference between the incubator and the venture capitalists or angel investors is that in case of venture capitalists, for example, you need to get a commitment for an X amount of investment from the venture capitalist that they will invest in the technology idea. Likewise, from the angel investor, they will invest an X amount in the technology idea. At times, these processes of getting approval from angel investors and VCs can take time in terms of validation process that they may have. So that's why those routes also are possible. And we, by the way, can help in all ways, whether all the possible situations, be it coordinating with an incubator, angel investor, or venture capitalist. Abhinav Immigration as a company, we are among pioneers. We filed our first application in 2019. So if somebody has any idea about startup application process and the entire nitty-gritty of it, it's Abhinav Immigration, rest assured about it. The process It's same in case of angel investor and VC also. They also give letter of support after which the entire project is validated by IRCC and the visa is issued. It's not a must that you file application as a group. If you want, you can file application all alone and without any group member. Even that's permitted. We can help you in that also. And there are two kind of projects, the typical startup projects. And we are able to identify both these areas for you. So you can identify a project, an Indian startup. India is, by the way, the world's third largest startup ecosystem. And you have, excellent, young, not so young, founders who are always wanting to take their technology abroad. So we have, at any point of time, Indian startup founders who are looking for collaboration, by investment or otherwise contribution in terms of intellectual capital, like role play through human resource, finance, accounts, or in other areas. So we have option of recommending to you the Indian startups who are looking for members, and we also have Canadian startups, whom we can recommend, who are likewise looking for value additions, whether in terms of investments or otherwise. There are multiple costs involved. That could mean, like I said, accelerator program, cost towards the business plan, cost towards the company incorporation, cost towards the shareholding agreement. Then you have cost towards the fee that you pay to the incubator for the incubation services. The time frame can be depending on incubator 12 to 18 months time. You have those costs. You have the cost of federal processing fee, the work permit application, and you have the right of tax fee. Overall, I would say that one should plan for a budget, including our fee of around 75 lakhs to 1 CR. Those who would like to know this figure in USD, one should be prepared for around $100,000 to $125,000 as costs they might incur during this particular overall process. One very significant advantage of the Training Startup Program is that after the letter of support is received, the members, based on that letter of support, can also file for work permit. Those who really want to go and start immediately working on the project. The significance of this work permit, so that process can take around 3 to 6 months time roughly. The COVID times are very unpredictable, but one is looking at around 6 months roughly. So once you have the work permit, you can actually go and start contributing to the project out there, especially the founder. Other members can also apply if they want to go there. See, you get at least 1 year work permit. So under the procedure, if you're holding a more than 1 year permit, 1 year work permit, your dependent kids, in terms of the cost towards education in Canada, pay almost the same, especially in the public institutions, as a local student. So that way it becomes very cost effective for those who are able to get work permit, even while working for the This, in nutshell, is what the Credit Startup Visa Program is about. So if so you are frustrated because you're not getting the CRS because of a low CRS, you're not getting an invite. You are a technology founder but don't have the funds to go. You need assistance from others, or you need role play from others, and for any other reason, you are an entrepreneur but not able to file an application under the entrepreneur category for various reasons. Startup is a visa category for you. Be it a standalone applicant in a group 2, 3, 4, 5, we can help you in every possible way. Canada Startup Visa, the right program for right people. Immigration is the